This meeting tonight is for the 450 O'Farrell community meeting. We're excited to explain about the project to you and also to correct some misinformation that's been floating around. We have a presentation that's about 20 minutes and it's followed by questions and answers. We do have a webinar format, which is a little bit clunky, best that we could do because we didn't know how many folks we would have attending the meeting. So a couple of things that you should know before we move forward. The folks that you see right now are the panelists, and we have audio and visual and video feed. Attendees, which is most of the people here, and we have 10 of those tonight, you have no audio or video feed, but we're here to hear from you tonight. So a few things. If you'd like to comment, and we welcome your comments, questions, concerns, you can type in the Q&A box your question, and I will stop at any time and read that out and make sure it's addressed. Alternatively, you can raise your hand and I can certainly unmute you, and I'm happy to do that. And we will also pause throughout the entire presentation to give people a chance to type questions in the question and answer box. So I think that's pretty clear. Again, you can use the Q&A function, you can use the raise your hand function, and we'll be pausing throughout the presentation. And finally, at the end, we'll have lots of times for questions and answers. And I think if we only have 11 attendees at the Q&A, I'll promote everybody to panelists so we can see your face and have a more interactive Q&A session. If you're interested in getting updates on the project, we encourage you to type your name in the chat box, your name, number, or email, whatever you're comfortable giving us, and we'll add you to our mailing list to get regular updates on the project. Just a few more things. This meeting is being recorded and we'll be throwing it up on YouTube and on our Facebook page. And John, can you put that information in the Q&A box for people, please?
Sure.
Facebook and YouTube. And also we have Spanish and Vietnamese audio interpretation simultaneously in real time. And John, do you want to explain how that works for people in case they need it?
Yeah, so you should be able to see on Zoom a little globe icon that says interpretation. If you click on that button, there'll be an option to listen to either the Spanish or the Vietnamese audio, and you simply just click the one that you want, and it will take you over to that audio feed.
Okay, and again, my name is Tracy Craig. I am moderating, and John Primani, who you just heard from, is my co-pilot and keeping us all straight tonight. So next slide, John. Okay, so this is our agenda. Starting off, I went through the ground rules, and now I'm going to introduce Ella Strong, who is the Executive Board President, I think I got that right, with the First Church of Christ Scientists. And she will be going through what the church's mission is and then introducing their project team. So Ella?
Well, thank you so much for being here tonight. We're just so happy to share with you information about our building project we've been working so long to realize. Let me begin by saying, first of all, that this building project's purpose is to bless the community, to build housing where none existed before, and not just any housing, but the one that will serve low and middle income essential workers households. The project will also provide new church facility which will better serve the community, and will also provide retail space for local businesses. This new housing is very innovative in its efficient use of space. We'll have generous residential common areas, and we'll have supportive services offered to the residents and their children. As you may know, our church has been at the 450 O'Farrell location for nearly 100 years. We need a new church facility and a welcoming, accessible space for the Christian Science reading room open to the public. But our church's heartfelt intent and desire, as expressed in our mission statement, has always been to build housing which working people can afford. So from about mid-1980s, we have been actively working on finding a path to develop our underutilized site. We never intended to own or operate the housing, but we wanted to provide this space that is currently underutilized. We have received the project approvals and entitlements at the end of 2018. Unfortunately, at that time, the developer we were working with withdrew from the project. It gave us, in a way, an opportunity to work with Forge development partners. Richard Hunnam, specifically the founder of Forge, has been an architect and a trusted friend of the church since 1980s. So when the original developer withdrew, Richard's team stepped in, not only to save the project, but also to improve on it so it can better reflect church's original intent for this project. So to recap, the apartments are being changed from luxury rate to what we call essential housing, to have them better align with the demographics and economics of Tenderloin. This redesign project will reach the broadest section of our community because rents will be more affordable. We've talked to, for example, hotel managers, among others, who say that the majority of their employees have to commute from outside San Francisco in order to afford rent. School teachers, firemen, construction workers, restaurant workers, all essential to the city, middle-income earners need local housing. This apartment building will provide that. I would also like to add that San Francisco Interfaith Council has spearheaded Essential Housing Task Force initiative in 2014. That's when we started working on our project in earnest in 2013. San Francisco has many communities of faith, which, like our church, would like to help the city solve the housing crisis problem and develop their underutilized land. Our project would be just the beginning of something much greater, and this prospect is truly exciting. Let me introduce our Forge Development Partners team, Richard Hunnam and Alex Zucker.
Thank you, Ella. Alex, would you like to lead people in a review of the project?
Yeah, thank you, Ella, for the introduction, and welcome everybody. Thank you for your time this evening here. Just to quickly go over some of the details and recap some of the things Ella said about this newly envisioned project. We've been working with the Fifth Church, like Ella mentioned, for a number of decades in Richard's capacity and as Forge for the past year or so, rethinking this project to really align itself better with the church's mission statement, goals, and the surrounding neighborhood context. And we think we've got pretty close to that. As Ella also mentioned, it's endorsed by the SF Interfaith Council and their Essential Housing Task Force. And to understand what the demographics of the area are and what we're building, we undertook a study a while back based on census data to understand what families compose the Tenderloin, and it looks to be in the surrounding mile radius about 1.7 persons per dwelling. The project now has 302 apartments, 45 affordable units, up from 28 in the previous entitlement, and this exceeds the inclusionary housing requirement. The newly envisioned project has over 10,000 square feet of retail, outdoor and amenity space on several roof decks and courtyards, and interior amenity spaces as well. So one of the reasons we're hosting this town hall is because we've been seeing a lot of incorrect information circulating throughout the community, and we want to directly address some of these items that we're seeing. So I'll just kind of go through this list. Feel free to type questions in the chat box like Tracy mentioned, and we can address them on the fly right now or at the end. Either way is fine. So one misconception we've seen swirling around the community is that our largest units are 477 square feet, 318 as the smallest. Well, the smallest end is pretty accurate. We have about 320 square feet for our smaller units. Our larger units do get up to 650 square feet for a 2-bedroom that can accommodate, a family of 4. We've seen statements around the community about this being a glorified dormitory living. That's not how we've designed it. All units are private, full units with kitchen, cooking area, and full private bathrooms. We also have over 10,000 square feet of common space, as we mentioned on the previous slide. Kind of playing off that one, an item we've seen in multiple communications around the community is that we do not have full kitchens inside the units, which is not true. We do have full kitchens with induction burners, microwave convection ovens, dishwashers, garbage disposal, sink, and full-size fridge. In addition, we have several resident amenity kitchens throughout the project, the largest being which is on the ground floor of around 3,000 square feet to accommodate larger dinner parties, cocktail events, things like that, and residents are allowed to reserve it and host larger events in those amenity spaces. Again, we've seen a comment about the lack of private bathrooms. Each unit does have its own private bathroom with full-size shower, sink, toilet, and vanity. We've seen the comment about overcrowding, comparing this to the previous project that was at 176 units. When we do a bedroom comparison between the two projects, the previous project had 292 bedrooms and our project has 316. So that's only about an 8% increase. And like we mentioned earlier, on our demographic study of the surrounding neighborhood, the average household size is 1.7 individuals. And we feel that our units in this building directly accommodates and provides the housing necessary for those individuals. Again, we have 45 below market rate units, which exceeds the approved requirements for this project. Next slide. We've heard the comment
Hey,
about the
Alex, I'm just
bicycle
gonna pause you
parking
and I
being
want to make sure,
inaccessible.
does anybody have any questions? You can raise your hand, happy to call on you. Okay, thanks. Please, Alex, go ahead.
So just to clarify where our bicycle parking is, we have a number of bicycle parking spots on the street, in the ground floor, and in the basement to accommodate a good number of bikes in the development. Another item we've seen is that this project does not address racial and social inequities. Our project is designed to have supportive services and the creation of a real community in the building, which is why we have so much amenity space, both indoor and outdoor, and supportive services in conjunction with a group called Project Access out of Southern California, who has a number of properties in the Bay Area, I think over 2,000 units they manage for their services. And what they really focus on are health and wellness services, after school engagement for children's services, and also kind of financial well-being services such as, job interview prep, how to get out of student debt, things like this to really uplift the communities and the buildings they operate in. The removal of parking was done in conjunction with the San Francisco Planning Department during our review of this project to comply better with their transit first policy. Right across the street, we have a 38 Muni line, one of the most trafficked public transportation lines west of the Mississippi. And a couple blocks away, we have the BART line, as well as all the other Muni lines down Market Street. So in a transit first neighborhood, we really like to adopt the transit first policy endorsed by the San Francisco Planning Department. There is only one business storefront being converted into two in the new project. The only operating business is the Shalimar on Jones Street, and we are maintaining that retail space while building another double-story retail space on the corner of Shannon Alley and O'Farrell Street to add a large retail space over there. We've heard messages of our lack of community engagement, and while we've been reaching out to everybody constantly for about the past 4 or 5 months, we're absolutely open and willing to meet with everybody. Sometimes we get no response, and we just wanted to push the message again that we're out here, happy to engage, happy to discuss, answer questions, and chat with anybody at any time that's willing and able. Anybody else have any questions about this slide?
Hold on, I do have a question. What is the difference between your project and group housing?
That's a great question. I think the misunderstanding is what is group housing. Our project is based on the concept of group housing, which is a unique zoning in San Francisco. Throughout the state, it's called congregate housing differently. And I think the issue is there's no definition for either size of space, use of space, nature that is different than an apartment, other than we're required to do more things as group housing. And so our units and our building requires large amenity spaces, large community environments to be part of the housing, and adds to what we're going to be delivering as a building product. So we are group occupancy, which is the technical term for this particular zoning. And please ask another question if we need to clarify what that means to you.
Did that answer you, Pratibha? You can talk, by the way, Pratibha.
My question was, so why, because the confusion is because sometimes you call your project as apartments, and then sometimes the features looks like group housing. So that's why that question came, because when in your presentation, you call it as an apartment. So that's why essential housing and apartment. So that's why the question.
You know, I
Alex,
really appreciate that, because it is, there's so much language associated with this. All group occupancy are apartments, but not all apartments are group occupancy. Group occupancy was a special category created by the city of San Francisco to provide a vehicle for innovation in housing. So the group occupancy is, we're working in multiple cities. Other cities it's called congregate, and other cities it's common. So the language is different, but the rule structure in San Francisco is unique. We, under group occupancy, we have the opportunity to create various size spaces for the units while dealing with the issues of density. A lot of the specialty for this group occupancy was changed under the Avalos legislation. And so effectively, all group occupancy is apartments. These are apartments. Our group occupancy says that these are smaller units that are created. It's the congregate housing that allows us to improve the efficiency of things like energy and water for the building and reduce costs to our users. The actual space itself isn't particularly different. And so it's really the size, which is affordable by design between these units and bigger units. Our units in this building are larger than those we're building elsewhere and accommodate a wider variety of living groups and living structures. So I'm not sure what the question vis-a-vis group housing per se is. In order to deliver group housing, we have to fulfill a much broader spectrum of requirements than we would if it was just an apartment.
Pratibha, did that answer your question?
I mean, it did not fully, but I appreciate the attempt for sure.
I would be happy to try harder.
No, I think for right now, Richard, I think that's enough. I think the confusion is on the, if I can put words in your mouth, Pratibha, is that people think this is very similar to group housing, but these units actually have full cooking areas, full bathrooms, and a lot of amenity space, although they're typically classified on the planning as group housing. So I think that's the difference here. Am I right, Richard, that these are in the planning department, they have this classified as group housing because they only have group housing or apartments. They don't have any kind of in between. So
Correct.
that's where we're shoehorned right now. But we feel that it's different because you have private cooking areas, private bathrooms, and 10,000 square feet of amenity space. So hopefully
Yeah.
that helps you. And then we can show you some pictures of similar things that I think might help people understand too, the difference.
Right. I think the important part is there are significant requirements placed on us to meet amenity and utilization requirements that go far beyond an apartment building, and make this a product we're particularly excited about, with how the units themselves are built out, and how it works with the sustainability.
Let's go on and let's show them the pictures in a while, because we have another question from Gabriella. So I'm going to take that and then keep us on track here, and we can get to the actual pictures we can show you, which I think will be more helpful than us trying to explain so much. So Gabriella, do you want to go ahead and talk? I've unmuted you. And hi, nice to see you.
Hi, Tracy. Thank you. Hi, Richard and Alex. This is
Hi,
Gabby from
Gabriella.
TNDC. So I have a question about the supportive services, just out of curiosity, because this is the first time I've heard about this. Can you explain a little more about the intention of incorporating the supportive services, who it is intended for? Like, I'm sure you're implementing the supportive services, which means you're going to market the units for specific population. So could you explain more in detail what that would look like, who it would serve, and how it addresses racial and social inequity? I wasn't really clear about that.
Yeah, sure.
That's a
To be
lot
honest,
of things in one.
a little surprised that you haven't heard of that. This has been part of our development since the beginning, and is actually an aspect. We have a partnership on a company-wide level with Project Access, and have them in all of our developments. And the intent behind it is to really facilitate a sense of community in the buildings that we have. You know, we don't really see an apartment building as a door down the hall that you go up the elevator to and walk into and kind of keep to yourself. We really like to facilitate this community engagement, community involvement. And so the services range from everything that I mentioned before, kind of financial supportive services, teaching new graduates how to get out of debt, prepping individuals for job interviews, teaching them other skills to get jobs, and get better jobs, and really uplift themselves financially. And then, they also have kind of 4 arms to the Project's Access services. That's just one, kind of the financial side. Another side is the health and wellness, well-being side, where they host, everything from a yoga class to a guest chef coming in and showing you how to make sushi or make Italian food, or this sort of thing in our demonstration kitchen that I mentioned previously, the space on the ground floor. They also have an aspect that supports children and families. So they have after school programs, helping children with homework, helping them do better in their classes, understand the material, tutoring, things like that. Just being there if the parent can't. And then they have another aspect, which is really community engagement, which is not just in our building community engagement, but also outside of our building community engagement. So they'll host volunteer days with other organizations around the community and things like that for residents to participate in.
I think one of the things to look at is, as Forge, what we're trying to accomplish in support of the church is not just an apartment, not just a key to a front door, but it's a participation in an engaged community where, half the people in the Tenderloin are reaching up for improvement and the others are reaching to help them. And how do we foster that kind of an environment? Project Access has been doing this for over 20 years. They're proficient at psychosocial engagement, how to deal with depression, how to deal with direct family issues. And so we're bringing that to every project that we develop. we're in association with these folks that we have found to be a best of class operation as a 501c3 on a national level. So that's what's being offered in all of our projects. And the first, of course, is at TL 361 and 145 Leavenworth, where this is really something that Project Access is openly engaging. And so there we have it. Thank you.
Okay, Richard, I'm going to move us on and I'm going to let our attendees speak. So Eric, I am excited to hear what you have to say. And Gabby, I think we answered your question. If not, we can come back to it. Just let me know, okay?
Thanks, Tracy. That's great.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, I
Eric?
think Richard answered part of my question, who was going to be providing these services. I guess it's called Project Access. And is Project Access going to be on site?
That's
Yes.
right.
Where are they located at? Where they work from? Right
They'll
now,
have an office in the ground floor of the building.
on the ground floor. Okay. But do they have a
They'll host
space now? Or
You know, and do we actually, for Eric and Gabby as well, and all of our attendees, do we have a website or that you can punch into the question and answer
Yeah,
box?
absolutely.
that would be great. Thank you.
I think that would be helpful. And then we can also, I think they're there probably regular working hours, I'm assuming 8 to 5 or something. Am I correct, Alex?
Thank you.
They're not living.
Oh, no, there will be elements of residence
Oh, okay.
as part of Project Access. So they're there, there are representatives. It's their typical way of working.
Okay.
It's not something we created.
Okay. So we will punch that website into the Q&A box. And then I want to say again, if anybody wants to meet afterwards and find out more about them or even introduce Project Access folks to you, we're happy to set up a meeting for you to chat with them individually. Okay, Alex, keep going. We have a lot of presentations, so I'm going to ask you to kind of step it up. We're mostly here to listen tonight and answer questions.
Great. Sorry, I was looking for that link to go to the next slide. We wanted to have a slide in here as our typical presentation to address the affordability between the previous project and the new one here. So as you can see, this is the top bar is the previous luxury project with 28 units of affordable housing below 55% AMI and 148 luxury units starting at $130,000 a year and going up well from there. You'll notice in the middle there, they completely miss this middle income bracket that, to be honest, is missed in almost every development in San Francisco. There's only been about 1,400 units of middle income housing built over the past decade and a half in San Francisco. So really, it's a market that we are completely missing as a city, which is why we like to directly address that. We'd like these people to stay in the city they love and want to live in. So you'll see our newly envisioned project on the bottom here, and our maximum income qualification for our units is 115% AMI, and it goes all the way down to $20,000 a year, 22% AMI. So you can see we kind of directly capture and address this whole middle market that was completely missed by the previous development and is really part of the church's mission and goals. So we're really happy to be able to provide that in conjunction with the Fifth Church of Christ Scientists.
Okay.
And here's just some illustrations about kind of who these people are. I know sometimes, you know, all these numbers about AMIs and qualifying incomes and things can be a little bit tough to visualize, you know, who these workers are in our cities. So these are just some examples, you know, everything from a fast food line cook and dishwasher up to, you know, a hotel manager or a teacher would be applicable to live in the project.
Okay. Hey, Gabby, I just want to check in. Do you have a question? Your hand is still up, so I'm going to pause everybody.
Oh, sorry, I don't.
No, but sorry. Perfectly okay. Just wanted to double check. Okay, thanks.
So again, who will a project serve? That's a question we've gotten a lot through our community engagement meetings. And we want to directly address with this slide. So with our demographic study of the surrounding neighborhood, we found that the average household size in the Tenderloin is about 1.7 persons. And we feel we directly designed this project to address, that household and even some larger ones, a diverse household, young families, single parents, things like that. Some of our units are equipped with flexible furniture to enable conversion of a space. A smaller studio can convert from a living room space to a bedroom and such, a dining room space to host a dinner party, things like that. All units do have their own private bathroom and kitchen. The amenity spaces we're envisioning are large residential kitchen and dining for entertaining large groups, parties, hosted dinners, cocktails. Again, we'll also be hosting events there for everybody to participate in. An after school kind of area, there'll be a large outdoor courtyard where we envision there being some play structures and other equipments for students and Project Access to run kind of their after school programs. There'll be a business co-working center, a gym, and of course a roof deck. We also get a lot of questions about what these spaces look like. So we wanted to kind of pull some examples from around the nation and give you a look into what smaller space living looks like and can be. And then we also follow that up with some rendered views of our units and how we envision those spaces being used. So this is a unit in Providence. You'll notice that it's kind of a convertible studio. These are actually two different units. So the one on the right has a dining table, and kind of behind the camera here is the sleeping area. And then the one on the left you'll see has kind of a sleeping area towards the front, kitchen in the middle, a bathroom opposite that, and then kind of a seating living room space there as well. Our next slide is another example of some spaces from around the nation. I believe that one is in New York. Again, a kind of convertible studio, small space living that has a dining room table that can accommodate 5, a flip down sofa, comes to a bed, queen bed, and all the other common amenities in the apartment, full bathroom and kitchens and all of these. Then we wanted to show some example of our units and how we envision them being lived in. So this one you can see is a smaller 1-bedroom unit with a pull-out. This is a dining use we're showing. You'll notice that there's a pull-out table there that actually recesses completely into the millwork countertop. That can be a desk during the day, table at night, dining room, living room, bedroom, all of the above. And of course, you'll notice the kitchen and bathroom in the middle.
And Alex, I have a question. Please describe laundry access. And I'm going to give you a time check. It's 7 after, so I'm going to have you go through these slides pretty quickly so we can actually get to people asking this question. And we're willing to stay after, but I also know people don't want to be here all night. Can you explain laundry access, please?
Yeah, so while I'm doing that, you can, maybe, John, if you want to flip through a couple of these images to show different use cases while I talk about laundry. So there are going to be laundry in a number of the units, not all of them. And there are laundry rooms throughout the building. We're probably envisioning 2 kind of throughout the stack of the property. So there will be absolutely laundry on site. I know it's always kind of a big hot button for people because taking your laundry down the block is kind of a pain. So absolutely there will be laundry on site and in units.
Okay, and then why don't you explain the 2-bedroom that we're looking at now?
Yeah, this is one of our larger units here. Again, we've equipped it with kind of space-saving convertible furniture. You'll notice one of the bedrooms in the top right is a 2-bed. Actually, those 2 kind of metal bars you can see at the top are pull-down beds and then flip-down desks. So you can see it kind of the day use case here as a bedroom with desks. In the other room over there is the living room, dining room, and you'll see the kitchen and bathroom in the middle as well. Kind of another view of the same unit, same space.
Next slide, there we go.
There you go, the sleeping use of the same space there. The 2 beds down, the other bed down in the living bedroom, and it's a convertible sofa.
Next slide, John.
Just wanted to show you the ground floor plan here. As well, you'll notice the church takes up the majority of the ground floor, but you'll also notice these spaces we mentioned in our talk here. Large resident kitchen and dining section, lobby, offices, and retail space there.
John, can you just point out the church with your cursor, please?
The church is all of the yellow space.
That's the church, and then the resident kitchen. There you go. Okay, thanks. Okay, and then next slide.
So that pretty much concludes our presentation. Let us know if you guys have further questions or want to go into anything in more detail, and we're happy to address that, as Tracy mentioned. We have about 19 minutes left in our scheduled time, but like she mentioned as well, we're absolutely willing to stay later if we're having an engaging discussion.
So I'm going to ask folks to raise their hand, and then I'm just going to call on you, and we'll go like that. I think Gabby is the first one to raise her hand again. So please go. Really, I want to impress upon everybody how much we want to hear from you, how much we want to meet with you, and how much we want folks to really understand the vision behind this project. I don't know. I lived in New York for a couple of years when I was young, and New York has lots of tiny spaces, so I think that's probably the future. But we'd love to hear from you tonight. So Gabby, please.
Thank you. So I appreciate you all sharing the AMI levels, but I'm curious if you could give us a sense of what the projected rents will be. I know there are units with different square footage. So are you able to give us a sense of, by the size of the units, what the rents will be based on the AMI levels that this project is going to cater?
Okay. And for those of you that don't, AMI is area median income, right? So just so people don't know that, who's going to take that? Is that Alex or is that Richard?
I think I should take that one. It's
Okay.
the money side. The units that we've got, this does not account the BMR units, which start in the sub $900 range for those units up and the units then for market rate are at $2,800. I think, Alex, they range as high as $3,200 a month. And that's representing the entire building. So our entire range of the building really strikes in, I think, Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, about 110% of AMI is our average range for the entire project. And we don't have anything that is going to hit a rent rate above, I think it's 130%. Is that correct, Alex?
I think it's even lower, John. If you want to go back to that kind of affordability slide, that's a great illustration. But yeah, Richard, you're correct. Our average rental rate is $3,200, which is about 105 to 110% AMI.
Right. Our goal is to come up with an economic structure that allows people who are earning sub median wage to have a fabulous place to live. And so those are the economics. You see them there in the ranges. There's a lot of confusion. What's an AMI? What's an actual income? And where's the rent? And so it's all based on all those multipliers. We haven't set the rents for this, but those are the ranges that it falls in.
Gabby, did that answer your question?
That did, thank you.
Okay. Other questions from folks?
Looks like Pratiba's raising her hand.
Pratiba, please.
Hey,
And then I'm going to ask Lisa after Pratiba, and then Eric. You guys got to remember which order.
so Lisa can go because I already asked one question. I have my question, but I'll come back.
Okay, so Lisa, and then Eric, and then Pratiba. Lisa, you are unmuted. Where'd you go? There you are. Lisa, I think it's actually Liza. Excuse me. I got my big old glasses on. I couldn't even see that. Liza, would you like to speak, please? There you go.
There you go. Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, so when we define affordable and you're looking at the average neighborhood income, this doesn't seem to make sense because the average income in this neighborhood is nowhere near affordable $3,200 a month. No way. And so tell me what kind of room a single mother who's a dishwasher with 2 children would fit in this scenario. Would she be stuck in a 300 by whatever, 318 foot room? Or is she going to be able to raise her children in a dignified living space so that they can grow? Because, and I get confused too on your marketing, because all the pictures show pretty much young adults eating in, groups. Only 2 showed kids. And then you're talking about loan forgiveness and college students. So who's going to get the majority of these low income when we're talking that the Tenderloin needs income, affordable, essential working living spaces? And that could mean a mother and a father both being dishwashers with 3 kids. How can they possibly live in a dignified space when you're charging that much and can make them live with no place for agency? Is there any possibility of reducing some of the common space and increasing some of the unit spaces for dignity space? Instead
John,
of
if you wanna-
compacting everything into one. Can you imagine living like that? Could you live like that? Everything in one cubby hole, everything like this, with a 3-year-old who's trying to change and grow? I'm just picturing yourself in those living situations. It's kind of horrific. Unless you're a person who's coming out of the streets, this is your first home, you're learning agency, how to become a community, you have support services, then you should be able to move up the ladder to a bigger space. This density living space is not dignified to those living in the Tenderloin.
John, if you want to jump to the next slide, I think that shows us what the income is for I think Liza mentioned a fast food line cook here. So let's see what that is. In San Francisco, that's around $27,000 a year. So that would be a below market rate unit qualifying income. And those are actually managed 100% by the San Francisco Mayor's Office of Housing. We do not have any say on who moves in there. They enter a lottery system with the Mayor's Office of Housing based on the buildings that are coming online. And it's literally a lottery system, numbers drawn out of a hat get drawn for these, since there are a lot of applicants and not a lot of product being delivered.
Again,
addition
to my point, exactly to my point. You're not meeting the demand of the need of our neighborhood. That's exactly my point.
Well,
So,
can I
and why should we have a lottery system to live in a dignified city and dignified just off of profit? That makes sense to me.
I really understand this frustration. It's very difficult for all of us to try to solve all of these issues, in kind of one shot. One of the things we were excited about when the church brought us in was the idea that we would go from 28 units, 28 winners of the lottery, to 45 winners of the lottery. And that is that many more households that can move into affordable, state-of-the-art housing. This is not apologetic housing. This is technically state-of-the-art, best possible construction and materials living experience. And so we think that addition of, that many more winners of the lottery system is important. But the other side of it that we look at is the rest of the units in the building, all the rest of the square footage, instead of serving people who earn $150,000 a year, it serves people who earn $70,000 a year. And that represents a lot of people that live in and around this district and the city at large. And so we think that that's pretty exciting that we have the ability to make that proposal to the community.
I think, Richard, I'm just going to chime in and you can tell me to be quiet. I think a couple things though, Liza. Some people are going to like this housing. Some people aren't going to like this housing. That's just the way it is, right? So I think it's important just to acknowledge that difference. I think the other thing that we really need to talk about is getting things built and affordability. This is buildable. It's doable. It will actually increase the housing stock and can get done. A lot of things that are proposed these days, bigger units and such. And I'm I'm pretty neutral here. I just want to see housing in general, but I think
Mm-hmm.
the larger units, the project as proposed before, quite frankly, wasn't doable. It just what it did not, it couldn't pencil out. I think I'm right on that, right, Richard?
Yeah, that's why the developer on the day it was approved
Yeah.
resigned the project.
Yeah. So I think, you know,
Not
that's also,
financial.
but your point is taken. I don't think we're going to convince you. I totally understand agency and people wanting privacy. Different people have different housing. Smaller houses are all over the nation, all over the nation, in fact, the world, right? But I think it's new to California. So, okay, Eric, would you like to say something? And Liza, I know that didn't really address your question. I don't think we're going to be able to hit that one head on and convince you either way. And I don't want to try to do that because everybody is
Right.
welcome to their opinion.
That's true.
Yeah, Eric,
Yeah.
can we get you to talk? Hi.
Do you have a breakdown of the AMIs, the 302 units? Is there a breakdown? How many are going to be 22 AMI? What's going to be 50? Is there a breakdown?
Somebody's going to have to repeat that question because I
Oh,
actually
I'm
didn't hear that. I heard
sorry.
a breakdown, I think, of AMI.
Yes, if you guys have the breakdown of AMIs.
You want
I
an
saw it.
actual breakdown of the AMI? Okay.
Yes, and then also, is this going to be rent control? Because you're saying you're going up to 130 AMI, but usually when it's calculated that way, it's usually all considered 100% affordable. So is it going to be rent control?
No, the below market rate units are rent controlled as mandated by the.
Alex, I'm going to have you repeat that question because we're recording this. I want to make sure that people know
Yeah.
the view
Yeah.
Oh, Eric was just asking if the 100% of the units in the project are rent controlled.
No, not all of them, but the top tier where you said it was 100 up to 130 AMI, is that you're trying to stay within 110 and 130. How do you plan to stay in there because the market, it's your market rate? So I'm just wondering if it was rent control. How do you plan to stay in that range?
Yeah, no, it is not rent controlled. The 45 below market rate units are mandated by the city, are fall in that category, and they have prescribed rent increases, managed by the mayor's office of housing. The rest of the units, no, they are not rent controlled. It's kind of the intrinsic.
Oh, I see. So what you're saying, up to 130s are the BMRs, up to 130 AMI. That's the high end of the BMRs, 130 AMI?
No, that's the whole project. 45 of the units are below market rate at 55% AMI and below.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to understand how are you able to manage the market rate ones? The max you're saying for your market rates are 130 AMI? I guess I'm not clear on that.
Yeah, that's correct. It's kind of like the intrinsic nature of the smaller unit, right? You can't charge $6,000 a month for a smaller unit that you could charge a larger luxury unit. So it's kind of,
Alex, can you share what affordable by design means?
affordable by design basically means because of the design of the space. This is an architectural and design term. It's basically the design of this space itself is affordable. So essentially, in this project, that means smaller spaces like Liza harped on. It is, we're seeing a lot of trends, like Tracy mentioned, throughout the world towards smaller space living, particularly in major metropolitan areas like San Francisco. It really gives the tenant the ability to pay a lot less in rent. At San Francisco, I think we're currently over 50% of the average person's income goes towards rent. So we're trying to get that down and make these affordable toward lower income, middle income workers. And we're really seeing a trend to the smaller housing. I mean, just anecdotally, personally, I don't live in San Francisco to sit in my large luxury apartment. I live in San Francisco to do everything that the city has to offer. Go to the market, go out for dinner, walk around Market Street, things like that. Use the amenities.
So you said it's 1.7, I guess, percent of family. What's 1.7? That's a couple.
The average household size
Yeah.
of the Tenderloin is 1.7 individuals per
So
house.
what is that? One adult and one child?
Essentially, I mean, it's a bit of a weird number, right? You can't have 0.7 of a person.
Yeah. So I was trying to figure out how you.
So
Okay.
yeah, kind of essentially could be viewed as a single parent.
Are any considered family housing? That are
Eric,
in
did
the
we answer your
BMR?
question?
Sure. Are any considered family housing?
Sorry, what was that, Eric?
I think it was, is this considered family housing?
Or
Did I
any
get
of-
that right,
or-
Eric?
Yeah, or any of the units, like a couple with 2 or 3 kids. A lot of the people of color have larger families.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's, again, we're getting into a lot of really subjective things on how people live. Absolutely, our larger 650 square foot units, as you saw in kind of our diagrams, could easily accommodate a family of 4.
Are they in the BMR ranges or those are the market rate?
Some of those are BMR. Yeah,
Okay.
the below market rate units have to be equally spread across the different unit types.
Okay. And can
I
you
think,
tell me-
and too, I'm just going to say, I think that the church's mission and Forges is that this will serve people that are maybe not as traditional families, like the mother, the father, the 2 kids, but a grandmother with a child they're raising, or a kindergarten teacher that's brand new to housing, or a single mom or something like that. So I think they're thinking a little bit more diverse than just the old nuclear family definition that we always used. And I guess the one other thing that they've impressed upon me that I want to share with everybody is they did some deep demographic research in preparing and re-envisioning this project. And the current Tenderloin, it's 1.7 per people, which is weird, but person and a half per unit. And that's probably not going to change anytime in the near future. So I know that we've heard really people want family friendly, but this development team feels this is family friendly. It's just a different definition of family, a broader, more inclusive definition of family than typical. So.
Last question. What AMI do you guys have for the TL?
Pardon?
Repeat that again, Eric. You need to really yell into your microphone, I think.
Yeah, what's the area median income for the Tenderloin?
Area median income for the Tenderloin. Wow, I do not know that. You guys know?
I do not either.
That's a great question. It's in our demographic response for all the analysis that we did. So we have the answer, but I can't tell you what it is right now.
We will get back to you with that, Eric.
Yeah,
if you want to.
We're happy to respond.
If you want to throw your email into the Q&A.
Sure.
Or you can,
okay.
If you don't want to share it, and we'll get back with you with that. And we'll also give you the breakdown.
Okay.
To anybody else that wants it, we're happy to share that information.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Sure, of course. My phone number was in there. You can call or text me, and I'm happy to get you that information. I just need to know how to get a hold of you.
Sure, got it. Thank you.
Okay. Pratibha, I know that you wanted to have another bite at this apple, and somebody else asked me when the Planning Commission hearing is, and I believe, John, is it April 1st?
Correct.
Yes, that's correct.
April 1st. And then there's a question in here from Liza, but I'm going to take Pratibha first, and then we'll do Liza's question, just to be fair.
Sure.
Pratibha.
Thanks, Tracy. So my question is for Alex or Richard regarding demographic response, demographic evaluation that you did, and you decided this is the best project in the Tenderloin, will serve Tenderloin residents. So I'm curious because Tenderloin's got a lot of single family home, a single room occupancy hotel, especially around that area. So I don't know how I'm curious as to what kind of research that you did that felt like it's okay to have a family live in a small square footage home. Because guess what, they're currently living in a studio, of a family of 4 is living in a studio. So it's okay. We can build something like that for them. So can you please?
Pratibha, that's a great question. This is like really the important part. The analysis that we created, that we studied, didn't say it's okay for people to cram 5 people in a single studio space or 1 room with a bathroom down the hall. That's not what we're talking about. What we looked at was, what is the nature of the Tenderloin so that we would understand it. And we did a deep dive, door by door, and using census statistics and others to try to support that information so that we'd have a better understanding. And we recognize that there are a lot of people who are living in spaces that are challenged. What we felt was that it's about, we believe, as a product in independent living. Independent living means I have my own bathroom, I have my own cooking facility, and then we have space. Now that will serve a number of different people, and it may or may not serve the entire demographic of the community, but it will serve a lot of people. And our goal was to make sure that we could price this in an economic range that met middle income folks. These are not SROs. These are not an apology for space. We built the first prototype and did the analysis with some pretty serious folk. We built the prototype in Denver to try it out and share it with people. And it was a raging success because of the quality of space, quality of light, quality of air, quality of living environment, sense of acoustic privacy, a lot of parts that go together when you're in small space. And so we went to a great deal of trouble and not trouble, but we were very, very curious and interested in what would make this up. So the square footage is small, functionality is very high. In most of the world, these are called efficiency apartments. They're not readily available in San Francisco. And so they don't serve everyone, but they serve really a lot of people. And so that's been our approach. And we think that the 450 product, unlike, 361 is really for individuals. The 450 units are 100 square feet bigger than those at a starting point and go larger from there. So I think that's kind of where we think this type of housing fits. And yes, it's not going to solve every single situation, but it's going to serve another 300 people who earn median income or less. And we think that's kind of important.
Okay. We have another question. I just want to say, Liza, we are happy to share the data on the research done. If you want to, I'm just thinking, Pratibha, do you know all these folks? If I get you information, can you get it out to them?
I know Gabby, that's all I know.
Okay. So Liza, I'm going to need
I
to
don't.
either have you call me or give me your email, whichever you're more comfortable doing. I'll put my number in the chat. John, you'll put my information in the chat box again for me, or Q&A. Okay, but yes, we're happy to share the demographic information. Then this is the last question. We are at 7:30, so we're happy to just go 10 more minutes, but I don't want to take up too many people's time. And we're happy to have another meeting or have a separate meeting with anybody, anytime, anywhere, or go to a pre-existing community meeting and provide information before the hearing date of April 1st. So we have a question here. This should then show the AMI is like 54K to 60. So I think she's talking about that graphic that looks like a little car to me. And she's thinking the AMI should be 54 to 60.
It's
I
like,
think she's referring
that's
to the
the
demographic
average,
study.
that's the average income around this neighborhood, in this district, in this area. The average income is about 54 to 60,000.
Okay.
Really that high?
If that for two people, if that.
Yeah, we thought
And
it
most
was
people on
quite-
SSI around here is less than 21. So
Right.
it's definitely, you're way off. You're way off, and it needs to be corrected. It needs to be fitting in the neighborhood, the population that needs it the most. And your pictures depict them, but it does not give them the space in which to live. So that's where we're having a conflict.
Got it. Okay.
We appreciate your interest, Liza, in making sure people are well attended to. And we're trying to do our part within what we're capable of delivering. And thank you for your time. I do appreciate it.
And then David just noted that SSI is 12,000. I believe that's annually, if I'm not mistaken, right,
I
David?
think what the difference in these projects is that one project offers 28 units that serve this group, and we're offering 45.
Okay.
And when you look at the AMI, you look at the qualifying income, And our project will qualify people down who earn only $20,000 a year minimum wage.
Okay. All right, we are at 7:35, so I'm wondering if people have any extra time. I'm happy to add whoever's put in their name in here, we'll be adding you to our list. Other questions, thoughts, concerns? No? Okay. I would, on behalf of the church, I'd like to say thank you. Ella, did you just want to close us out since this really is the church's project? I know we focused a lot on Forge, but the church is really the responsible party, and it is their hope and desire to have a new church, a new reading room, and stay in the Tenderloin where they've been close to a century. So, Ella, can you just?
That's exactly right. We have been hoping and praying and working towards realizing this project for a very long time. And I think that this is very exciting. Every time I'm finding out more about the project, the more excited I am, because of the innovative ways of looking at the space and how it can be used and how to build. And Alex hasn't even told you about the solar panels and all the environmental sustainability that this building is going to have. But I don't know, but it seems to me that it's a very wonderful project, and we really appreciate your time that you wanted to come and hear the details about it.
We do, and I'm going to say thank you so much for attending. Whether you support it or not, we appreciate you, and we appreciate you taking time out of your evening and your family life to come join us. And I think that's all the comments we have. I think we've addressed everything, so I'd like to say good night. I'm just going to remain on the line for 5 minutes longer if anybody wants to chat offline, and I'm going to let everybody else, including our project team, go. Good night. I'll stay on though.
Everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
All righty. Good night,
Good
everybody.
night, everyone. Thank you very much.